Tunisia's President Kais Saied has announced that he is dissolving the country's parliament 8 months after suspending it in a July power grab. He made the announcement at a meeting of the National Security Council, hours after parliamentarians held a plenary session online and voted through a bill against his exceptional measures. Tunisia's Justice Minister Leila Jafal asked the Attorney General to open a judicial investigation against members of a suspended parliament on charges of conspiring against state security. Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo says the country will start producing its own COVID-19 vaccine in January 2024. Speaking at the State of the Nation address in Parliament, the president said a national vaccine institute would be established to lay out a strategy for the country to begin the first phase of commercial production for the vaccine. He said that a bill will shortly be brought to the parliament for support and approval for the establishment of the National Vaccine Institute. Sweden's H&M has reported quarterly profits that were sharply below analysts' expectations for the December to February period, as the impact of COVID-19, supply chain problems, and investments weighed. In its fiscal first quarter, the group swung to a pre-tax profit of 282 million crowns from a loss of 1.39 billion a year earlier. This was well short of the 1.04 billion crown profit analysts polled by Refinitiv had on average forecast for the period. IDX Channel reports. IKN Authority explain 3 important aspects of IKN development. Market headlines. We'll be right back.
Kini aplikasi mClears hadir di handphone Anda untuk memudahkan transaksi Anda. Informasi aktivitas clearing dan penjaminan tidak lagi hanya dapat diakses melalui komputer di kantor Anda, melainkan dapat diakses di mana saja dan kapan saja dalam genggaman Anda. Fitur-fitur mClears. Equity clearing dan settlement adalah fitur di mana Anda dapat melihat posisi kewajiban settlement anggota clearing hingga nilai alternate case settlement serta informasi gagal bayar. Risk management adalah fitur di mana Anda dapat melihat posisi trading limit, kolateral, MKBD, portofolio harian, discharge anggota clearing dan kombinasi, serta nilai minimum cash collateral. Derivatif adalah fitur di mana Anda dapat melihat posisi trading limit, margin call, dan informasi clearing derivatif. Terkait pinjam-meminjam efek, terdapat fitur mengenai borrowing information dan lendable pool information, serta lending revenue dan borrowing fee. Serta menu lain yang menampilkan informasi mengenai haircut, discharge saham, dan nilai harga penyelesaian harian dan harga penyelesaian final. Selain itu, Anda juga dapat mengakses fitur pengumuman, peraturan, dan informasi layanan KPEI pada aplikasi mClears. Download aplikasi mClears di App Store atau Google Play Store. Lakukan registrasi user Anda dengan menggunakan alamat email berdomain resmi yang sesuai dengan anggota clearing Anda. Setelah registrasi, Anda akan diberikan kode OTP di email Anda untuk verifikasi, dan aplikasi mClears Anda siap untuk digunakan. Anda dapat mengakses seluruh menu pada aplikasi mClears dengan melakukan aktivasi berlangganan premium yang dapat dilakukan dengan memilih menu Get Premium. Download aplikasinya sekarang, lakukan registrasi, dan dapatkan kemudahan dalam genggaman tangan Anda. Kemudahan informasi KPEI dalam genggaman Anda.
Welcome back on Market Headlines. The Central Bureau of Statistics, or BPS, noted that inflation in March 2022 was 0.66%. BPS explained that the main contributors to inflation came from red chili commodities, household fuel, gold and jewelry, and cooking oil. The Central Bureau of Statistics noted that inflation in March 2022 was 0.66% month-on-month or 2.64% year-on-year. Head of BPS Margo Yuwono said that the main contributors to inflation in March came from red chili commodities, household fuel, gold and jewelry, and cooking oil. Margo said that inflation in March was the highest inflation since May 2019, when inflation was 0.68%. Meanwhile, March inflation on an annual basis was the highest since April 2020 at 2.67%.
Berdasarkan hasil survei yang dilakukan oleh BPS di 90 kota, pada Maret 2022 itu terjadi inflasi sebesar 0,66%. Penyumbang inflasi di bulan Maret ini itu utamanya berasal dari komoditas cabai merah, bahan bakar rumah tangga, kemudian emas, perhiasan, serta minyak goreng.
Of the 88 cities experiencing inflation, Merauke became the city with the highest inflation at 1.86% and Kupang the lowest inflation at 0.09%. Meanwhile, the highest deflation was in Tual at -0.27% and the lowest was in Kendari at -0.07%. IDX Channel reports. Indonesian Vice President Ma'ruf Amin say that President Joko Widodo has instructed his staff to anticipate a shortage of subsidized diesel during Ramadan and Eid. The Vice President say that the President has also assigned the relevant ministries to take steps to fulfill the availability of subsidized diesel. He stressed that the government will continue to monitor the fulfillment of subsidized diesel. Earlier, House of Representatives Speaker Puan Maharani had urged the government to ensure the availability of diesel to prevent hindrances in logistics distribution during Ramadan and Eid. She urged the government to promptly find a solution to the subsidized diesel crisis as it has the potential to trigger problems in various regions.
Instruksi supaya ini segera diantisipasi. Ya, untuk kelangkaan solar ini dan terus sedang dilakukan pemantauan dan para menteri sudah yang terkait ini diminta untuk terus melakukan langkah-langkah untuk pemenuhan ketersediaan solar ini. Saya kira tunggu saja nanti beberapa hari ini mungkin ada beberapa yang nanti akan diumumkan langkah-langkah yang seperti apa.
The Nusantara IKN Authority revealed that there are 3 aspects that must be fulfilled in preparing the development of the national capital. In addition to these 3 aspects, the authority emphasized that the development of Nusantara capital city is a long step that takes a long time. The head of the Nusantara IKN Authority Agency, Bambang Susantono, revealed that there are 3 aspects that the government must fulfill in preparing the development of the national capital as well as possible. The 3 aspects are aspects of planning, implementation, and regulation. In terms of planning, Bambang stated that his party continues to consolidate with several related ministries and institutions, starting from macro plans to micro plans so that there is conformity and consistency in IKN development.
Kota itu harus berlanjut, sustainable, kota itu harus green, kota itu harus inklusif, dan juga memiliki apa yang disebut smart city atau cerdas. Nah, semua itu bagaimana mewujudkannya, ada 3 aspek tadi, aspek perencanaan, pelaksanaan, dan regulasi. Dan pada intinya kami berdua melaksanakan 4K, konsolidasi dari perencanaan, pelaksanaan, dan juga regulasi, kemudian koordinasi dengan berbagai kementerian dan lembaga, kemudian juga komunikasi, dan satu lagi kolaborasi. Kolaborasi ini dengan berbagai elemen masyarakat juga.
In terms of implementation, Bambang said that currently the government is making a number of preparations so that IKN development runs according to environmental principles that the governments want to protect. In addition to these 3 aspects, Bambang emphasized that the development of IKN is a long step that takes a long time. IDX Channel reports. President Director of Indonesia's Banking Development Institute, Mirza Aditya Suara, stated that some new regulations and easing are required to develop the secondary mortgage market in Indonesia. He stressed that the secondary mortgage market in Indonesia requires several new regulations and their relaxation, as well as other assistance from various stakeholders, ministries, institutions, banks, and other cultural agencies. And currently, Aditya Suara remarked that financing for housing is still far as compared to the need for home ownership in Indonesia, which is mainly dominated by the lower middle class. Hence, funding for home ownership or mortgage becomes a huge requirement for Indonesia as a developing country. Meanwhile, most funding sources for the community to own a house still come from banking products.
Indonesia yang pasar secondary mortgage ini sudah didorong, tetapi menurut kami itu belum berkembang dengan baik, sehingga memang dibutuhkan banyak hal, mungkin dibutuhkan pelonggaran regulasi atau dibutuhkan regulasi baru, dibutuhkan bantuan dari berbagai stakeholder, berbagai kementerian, berbagai lembaga, dan juga tentu adalah dari perbankan.
Gudang Garam's net profit eroded amid rising revenue. Stay with us. Market headlines. We'll be right back. Revenue growth
Breakfast, Senin sampai Jumat, jam 8.30, hanya di IDX Channel. Perbincangan hangat tentang isu dan kebijakan ekonomi terkini yang diulas secara mendalam bersama narasumber terpercaya. Market Review, Senin sampai Jumat, jam 10 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat, hanya di IDX Channel.
Rp155 per share. And next, we're going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. Open at the level of 14,360, rupiah showing strengthening trend towards US dollar. And it was closed at the level of 14,281. And in summary, rupiah went up 0.49%. Despite higher revenue achievement throughout 2021, Gudang Garam's net profit dropped by 23% to 5.6 trillion rupiah. Cigarette producer Gudang Garam recorded significant revenue growth throughout 2021. Unfortunately, the company's net profit was eroded. Based on the financial reports as of December 31st, 2021, this issuer recorded revenue of 124.88 trillion rupiah, up 9.08% compared to 2020, which was 114.47 trillion rupiah. Nevertheless, Gudang Garam's cost of goods sold also jumped significantly by 13.92% to 110.6 trillion rupiah in 2021, compared to 97.08 trillion in 2020. As a result, the company's gross profit eroded to 14.27 trillion from 17.38 trillion. Gudang Garam also recorded an operating profit which eroded to 7.36 trillion rupiah from 10.04 trillion. As a result, net profit was only recorded at 5.6 trillion in 2021, or dropped 23.83% from 7.64 trillion rupiah in 2020. IDX Channel reports. Bayan Resources posted a surge in performance throughout 2021 with a revenue increase of more than 100%. Meanwhile, net profit increased to $1.26 billion. Coal issuer Bayan Resources posted a surge in performance throughout 2021 with a revenue increase of more than 100%. This issuer recorded an increase in revenue of up to 104% to $2.85 billion in 2021, or equivalent to 40.69 trillion rupiah from revenues in 2020 of $1.39 billion. The company's revenue was 99.75%, supported by the coal sector to third parties of $2.64 billion in 2021, an increase of 50.5% from $1.32 billion in the previous year. Meanwhile, Bayan Resources net profit also increased from $344.4 million in 2020 to $1.26 billion, or equivalent to 18.07 trillion in 2021, or an increase of 72.79% in 2021. By the end of the year, the company recorded total assets of $2.43 billion, an increase from 2020, $850.45 million. Likewise, the company's total liabilities and equity rose from $1.61 billion at the end of 2020 to $2.43 billion at the end of 2021. IDX Channel reports. And viewers, the news close our market headlines today, and please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, your trustworthy economic, business and capital market channel. And I'm Fajar Wayong. Have a nice evening and stay safe.
Hai sahabat investor, kalian ingin tetap bisa menabung meskipun keadaan keuangan kalian sedang sulit? Dengerin tips berikut ini ya. Kita masuk ke tips yang pertama ya. Nah, yang pertama, kalian harus memenuhi semua kebutuhan rutin kalian terlebih dahulu nih. Barulah setelah itu kalian bisa mengalokasikan pendapatan kalian untuk memenuhi kebutuhan pelengkap lainnya. Kita masuk ke tips yang kedua ya sobat investor. Jadi penting sekali bagi kalian untuk menutup hutang sesuai dengan kemampuan kalian. Selain itu, kalian juga perlu menentukan utang mana yang harus kalian dahulukan untuk dilunasi. Selain itu, penting juga untuk selalu menyesuaikan dengan uang tunai yang kalian miliki. Tips selanjutnya yaitu tips yang ketiga. Jadi kalian penting sekali untuk menekan biaya bulanan nih sobat investor. Jadi kalian juga memang harus memangkas kebutuhan yang memang sifatnya hanya pelengkap saja. Dan penting sekali bagi kalian untuk mempertahankan biaya bulanan yang sifatnya memang untuk kebutuhan utama kalian. Tips yang keempat terkait dengan pengelolaan aset. Jadi jika ternyata penghasilan yang kalian miliki ini tidak bisa menutup kebutuhan kalian, maka kalian bisa mempertimbangkan untuk menjual aset yang kalian miliki. Tips yang kelima, jangan lupa sisihkan sekitar 10% dari penghasilan kalian untuk ditabung di tiap bulannya. Dan saat keadaan keuangan kalian sedang sulit, tidak menjadi alasan untuk gagal mencapai impian. Jangan lupa ya, harus selalu rajin dan juga disiplin dalam menabung sobat investor.
Melalui Bursa Efek Indonesia adalah lompatan besar menuju transformasi pertumbuhan perusahaan. Bergabunglah dengan ratusan perusahaan yang telah berkembang pesat dengan Go Public. Go Public, lebih baik.
pemirsa, tidak terasa kita sudah memasuki bulan April atau awal dari kuartal 2 tahun ini. Dan pasar saham khususnya IHSG menutup kuartal 1 kemarin dengan ciamik rekor tertinggi lagi sepanjang masa. Kira-kira bagaimana strategi memasuki kuartal kedua tahun ini? Saya Prisa Sembodatu, inilah Market Buzz Power Breakfast selengkapnya.